And welcome, everyone. Here we are. So, we've got some of our co hosts not here today because they are away on holidays with their children. We've got, however, a lovely guest co host that we're bringing to you
Hello.
today.
Hello.
Hi,
Lisa,
Lisa.
Hello, Pete. Hello, Dorit.
Hi.
please introduce yourself, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I am the tech priestess. So basically, what that means is I help people align with the frequency of AI and utilize that as a resource to empower themselves to live the life of their dreams.
And would you tell them something about your Beach Healer Awakening community, please?
Yes, I have a transformation beach community because I also believe in the frequency of water. And it's an ocean gathering healing force for anybody that wants to just recalibrate during the day and connect with the ocean.
So, this is interesting that Lisa just told you that she believes in the frequency of water because our actual event today or episode today, we're going to be speaking about our belief systems and where they unleash us and where they block us. So the reason why the actual water remark is so important is we're going to be looking at the work of Dr. Masura Emoto as well. So I don't know how many of you listening in today or viewing today knows about the work of Dr. Masura Emoto. So he was a Japanese businessman who also believed very much in energy, and he used the water to, and we're going to be speaking more about him when we start speaking about the elements, which we will do later on, not today, but in later episodes, we're going to be going in detail and speaking about him. And what EP, do you know anything about his work, and do you at all do anything that has to do with his work?
I think I came across him quite a while ago. It was about maybe 12 or so many years ago on What the Bleep, maybe Down the Rabbit Hole or The Secret.
It's what the bleep. It was what the bleep down rabbit hole. Yes, what the bleep for sure.
I
Could you
mean,
tell
to
our
me,
audience about that? Tell our audience
oh,
about that.
to me, that's timeless. It's like I remember me and a few friends was watching many things over so many years, and we'd be bouncing it off. We were so excited the next day. Oh, did you remember this bit? What about that bit? And I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that. And I might say something and he didn't see it. So I on purposely watched it 5 times. Each time I watched it, there was always something I missed. And I revisited it about 2 years ago and then revisited it about 6 months ago. And again, it's just like as we grow, our eyes get a bit clearer. We have all these coping mechanisms, which is, helped us to survive up to a certain time. However, once you view something and you view it again, it gently, I feel, allows it to digest and you get to see more. So, yeah, his work was there and it was amazing. I mean, in terms of water, I mean, it's so fundamental. It's just you could say taken for granted. Not much research until he came along has really gone out there in the public eye, and it's so important. If people could express from you could say a higher vibration. Everything's energy, so the words we use has a sort of connotation, spells, energy, frequency. So if we can lift that, even we could say good words in a bad frequency tendency. So there's an interesting thing in terms of just saying love and anger, yeah, and or being angry. So yes, the intention, the energy behind it, I realize is very symbiotic with the relationship of just the words, because I talk high vibration, I mean, don't want to go too much on high, low, however, just uplifting, and not fake uplifting. We got to be in line. My theory, or belief. It's what I witness, what I see in myself as well. But what I witness time and time again is we have to be in that vibration. You know, and I talk about vibration and energy. What do you mean, Pete? I mean, in terms of be the walking example, being an example of potentially doing the work on ourselves, you know, cleansing, etc. So our waters inside are cleaner, and then really you have a symbiotic relationship from that. And then in terms of we express from a more loving aspect. Not saying we do all the time. However, even someone could judge something as, you know, not compassionate, and I'm sure I could express and define how that is more compassionate than the mainstream. I would say spoon-fed. So I have come across him. I think it's amazing. Walter by the sea as well. That sounds amazing. Retreat space you have, Lisa, and we often visit the sea, and you know, the negative ions in terms of the cleansing. I used to wonder, surfers, why, and then I used to do a lot of sea fishing many years ago, you know, and I realized it was just actually, whether I caught anything or not, it was the negative ions charging me up, the views, the limitless views, no buildings. It's just beautiful. And if we went to sort of places like Glengenniff in Wales or Dorset, you know, beautiful views. So it was so healing, so therapeutic. So I do really embrace his work.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Do you
Yes.
know anything of his work at all?
Yes, because I saw the same film, and that really made sense to me because we're water based, you know, and so just whatever we say, our cells respond. You know, our plants, when we, you know, I like to talk to my plants and give them love, and I've seen studies where if you know, say evil things to your plant, I can't imagine doing it, but if you do, the plant will wither. But if you speak love into it, it will literally reach out towards you. So our bodies are the same, you know, it's an energy thing. And I love
Yes.
the ions in the ocean too, Pete. It's amazing.
Yes, exactly, about the fact that it's all about energy. So 71% of the earth is actually made up of water. All those bodies of water, rivers, lakes, streams, seas, oceans, waterfalls, 71%. Those who live close to water will have a totally different belief system than those who do not, because the energy is different and they see life through the lens of all these different bodies of water, the sound of it, the feel of it, the touch of it, the smell of it, and also the negative ions that come with it. So more than 60% of the human body is actually water, or ought to be, unless you're severely dehydrated. And all illness has as its core dehydration. We'll come back to this again when we're doing the elements. We will be going through the elements another time. Today we're talking about belief systems. So if you believe in energy and you believe in the energy of water, I mean, that's why Dr. Masaru Emoto came up. 70% of the human brain is made of water. This is why we cannot ignore the studies that he did. Now, I was extremely fortunate and extremely honored in that I was able to meet him and also do a workshop with him. Although he spoke in Japanese, but I'm a member of a Japanese wellness center here in Los Angeles. And so we had a lot of people there to translate for him, so there was no problem with that. But all of us did the experiment with the water. So we saw for ourselves that it's not hocus pocus, as some people claim. That is not something that he simply came up with and decided, and he didn't need to spread it, because he was a businessman. He had the money, he had everything he needed. But this was something that he said it will come back to him when we do all of the elements again. And his experiments, I'm going to put something up right now on the screen. Dr. Masaru Emoto's experiment showed that water can reflect human consciousness. It can reflect our emotions, and Pete mentioned intentions, and it can also reflect our intentions through its crystal structure. I'm repeating this because this is very important when we speak about our belief systems. So Dr. Masaru Emoto's experiment showed that water can reflect human consciousness. Water can reflect our emotions. Water can and will reflect our intentions through its crystal structure. Now, a lot of people are dehydrated. This is going to affect their health. This is the Being Healthy live stream. We look at all different ways in which we can improve our own capacity and abilities to be healthy. And so our belief systems must be looked at. And it's interesting that that water reflects it. And water actually responds, so that we don't need to be wondering why it is that I feel this way, why it is that I'm constantly thinking these thoughts, these emotions. Because the water shows us what our belief systems are, how it responds to us, because our belief systems come through are emitted from us through our nervous system, through our actions, and especially through our language. Language is so important. And that's why when clients come to me, the first thing I do with them is I relanguage them. I teach them how to relanguage themselves. I don't think any change can be made using the same energy, the same language, which got us into problems in the first place. We have to change that. And so the water can be used as a tool to show us. And that's why I think, Lisa, that is why you're so attracted to the beach, and why you have this Beach Healer Awakening community that you're building right now on the beach. And so today, I would like to introduce you, if you do not know this yet, there is such a thing called kotodama. Kotodama, and it is, of course, Japanese again. So this is very, very important, kotodama. I'm going to put this up on the screen. So kotodama is the belief that every word we speak, think, hear, say carries a soul, a spiritual frequency that can heal, that can harm, that can purify, or that can awaken us. It is said that even a single utterance, when spoken with a full heart and pure intent, can actually shift the energy of a space, or even can shift someone's life. If you're right now bewildered with cancer or anything else that you do not like, just remember this. I'm going to repeat this, by the way. Now, unlike the Western idea of positive thinking and negative thinking, words which I do not use when I teach people how to relanguage themselves, kotodama is not about controlling thoughts. It's actually about respecting your voice. It's respecting the voice of those thoughts and those belief systems. So I'm going to repeat everything I just said, because this is really important. So kotodama is the belief that every word carries a meaning. It carries a frequency that can heal, that can harm, that can purify or awaken us. And it is said in kotodama that even a single utterance, such as yes, such as no, such as oh my gosh, even a single utterance, when spoken with a full heart and pure intent, can shift the energy of a space, an entire space. Last week we were talking, and the whole month, last month, we're talking about decluttering. And when you declutter, you can shift the entire energy of a space, including your own internal space. This is what kotodama recognizes. And it does it through sound and language. So unlike the Western ideas of positive and negative thinking, words which I do not use at all, kotodama is not about controlling our thoughts. It's about respecting our voice. And most people's voices are not respected, which is why people shout so much, scream so much. And we do this to children as well. So it seems like I'm constantly, with those of you who've been following this live stream, that I'm constantly going back to Japan. There's a reason, because the sacred power of Kotodama in ancient Japan, words were never just sounds. They were spirit. Every time you utter, an utterance, anything that comes out of your mouth, this is spirit showing up through voice, through words. They're vibrations. They're living forces that could shape our reality. And this is what Dr. Emoto showed using water. And that when we were playing with it with him, and we would say certain words, and then we would to the water. We all had to hold this bottle. It was quite a long, drawn out workshop, because we had, we had to really do it one by one, and we had to see what the result was for each person. So it was very, very exciting. And I'm going to put something else up on the screen as well. Kotodama is in Japan, especially in ancient Japan, was a spiritual practice. It was a ritual, an offering to the universe from your own breath. Every time we speak, we breathe out something, we breathe in something. It is an offering to the universe and to your being. So words are important. What you say is important, which is why silence is important as well. I have a practice where I only speak when I really feel that my breath, I'm not wasting my breath, where my breath, this incredible golden thread that I call my breath, is necessary or can help to illuminate. Otherwise, I choose not to speak. And that's why in old Japan, the monks chanted not just to pray, but to harmonize their soul with nature, which means our voice connects us to nature or disconnects us from nature, depending on the energy which the voice is emitting. So what words do matter. What we say in a forest, especially if you go to the redwood forest, I remember being in the redwood forest and feeling like I was in this incredible cathedral. And every time I go, I'm totally in silence. I don't speak. Even on the way there, I find that already it's so strong, the vibrations for me, that I don't want to emit any words, because I don't want to change the vibration. And the trees were responding. And I remember once I was there and these people were talking loudly, and I was just shocked. And then they had the people who tend to the redwood forest, they had to put up signs, no music allowed, no cell phones. And I was shocked that anyone would come to such an incredible place where it was so pristine, so sacred, without any sense of reverence. When we go to these places, if we're going to speak, any words that comes out needs to be words that will simply harmonize us with nature, not take away from what nature is already emitting. So, Pete, you did a video last week with the most incredible greenery behind you as a follow-up to our session here. Can you tell us why you chose that and how did that affect you? I'm going to put you on right now. Just unmute yourself, please.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. Yes, that was due to the podcast we did last Thursday. In terms of the Japanese room with the glass and the scenery and the open spaces and nature, as opposed to a more cluttered room, which I remember saying it looked like a typical grandma type room, really. And so yeah, I think I did actually mention that as well. So yeah, I chose the trees. I mean, as we do some of the food posts and things, we aspire to get the flowers and the greenery and vibrant life. So yeah, we was under a little apple tree in the garden. So that was my choice for them very reasons, really, to it just behind it illuminates life, whether we see it do see it, but it does go in the subconscious. It's amazing. Amazing you had that workshop with the master of water. Wow, beautiful. It sounds great. And you actually got to meet him. How beautiful is that? Just being in the essence of certain people, I realize, speaks volumes for me. Because even if I don't get it in the beginning, I can come away, even eating food, and if I'm doing my practice in the early rising, things pop in. Wow, the true essence of it. And when you mention, our spirit is talking through our words. We have mentioned in the previous podcast is like, well, most of us are kind of in fear of life. So most of us potentially aren't here. So what spirit is actually talking? What I see with all the kind of indoctrination, etc., and social systems and control, etc., etc., we are spoon-fed to create a kind of entity that we believe is us. So we believe that is us talking, so we have many kind of things we feed that we believe is us. There was a great one I put out with Peter Tosh about the ego, where he addresses the whole crowd, and it sort of nails it really, that many people are so caught up in money, the programs, fast food, the big car, the big house, and we forget about the real basic things, sitting under an apple tree, going bare feet, going to the woods, going to the sea, back to nature that we all have come from, we all are all part of, as opposed to more grey corpse environments. You live in that for too long, it wins. You get out into the environment of forests and trees and sea, that will win. So regardless of what's going on in your head, in your mind, in your energy field, it's going to totally shift your energy field. And it's interesting in terms of Jinshin Jiu-Jitsu, which I certified about 18 years ago, in terms of the meridian line. When you think of water, electricity, and shock trauma shuts parts of the cellular memory down. So we have stagnant energy in our body, stagnant waterways. So the more we can kind of get them flowing, the more water frequency energy can come through, the more spirit can come in. The true spirit, the authentic aspect of us. That's what I see. So I chose that tree because of the beautiful life, as I choose what I put in my mouth, and try and aspire to choose wisely what comes out of my mouth as well. Life
Bravo.
begets life, death begets death.
Wonderful. Bravo. Well, that's why we're here, to assist everyone who wishes to get the actual assistance to not forget and to focus on what really matters. So having said that, dear Lisa, what is it that you think or that you saw for your own self when you moved to right by the beach, or literally right by the beach? How did that change your belief system living there?
It's really interesting that you're asking that. First of all, it's interesting because the address is 555, which, if you're into numerology, it means change. And it was completely about transforming my identity, my connection to nature. I grew up on a beautiful island in Washington State, so I took all that for granted, the water, the trees. And then when I moved to LA, I lived in the Valley, and I found myself kind of staying in because it was too hot for me. And, I kept thinking, oh, I'll go to the beach, but anything in LA is an undertaking at best. So when I moved here, it just woke me up. It just electrified me. We're so lucky to have this earth. I think that's what it reminded me of, is just how fortunate we are. And not everybody lives by the ocean, but, to see a tree, to see a flower, to, walk in the grass, wherever you are in the world, to find that connection to nature is really important, because that's really, as Pete mentioned, that's who we are. That's our essential nature. And I think belief systems that we're talking about get come in that are not helpful to us when we get disconnected from who we truly are and what our essence is. And I just love what you talked about with the Japanese about spirit through the voice. I mean, that just made me think about, what am I saying? What am I putting out there? And how important it is to really give ourselves space and permission to be very clear on what we're activating in the world and what we're receiving.
Thank you for that. And actually, Lisa took one of my silent retreats. And she spoke to me a few months ago, about starting them. I began because once we got locked down in 2020, I stopped doing them, of course. And I actually loved those first 3 months of lockdown because I could practice silence, everything in silence. And I didn't have to explain why. So I really loved it. And so we're going to be starting up our silent retreats again. It is, I find, an extremely shocking affair for the body to absorb living in silence. I didn't realize that until I actually undertook, because every year I would go away on my own silent retreat, but that was my first year taking group. And I didn't realize that it would be a shock to their systems. And it was only after the second silent retreat that I created with groups that I realized the issue, it was a shock not to their physical system only, but to their belief systems. And therein lay the problem. Because our words betray us. And there's so many words. And in my book, Being Healthy, which is the companion book to this live stream, I speak about that and how our words betray us. So words are really important because we can say, I believe this, I believe that, but our words always betray what we really believe. How we respond to ourselves specifically will show that up. So I want you all to think about something today. What belief system drives you? I'm going to start with Pete.
Wow, what belief system drives me? Well, I've had to revisit belief system after belief system after belief system, and then looked at many other belief systems. And then, someone has said, do you have dreams? We must have a dream. And I had to think about that. And the conclusion I come up with is actually to sustain a certain space that I recognize that I have managed to rekindle. And that is it. Everything else is secondary. So we can say that's a connection, a level of connection that I will make that first and foremost. So if that's a belief, an ethos, there's religions, different dogmas, should I say, and different ethoses, different philosophies. So there, I've looked into quite a lot. So, however, I do believe what is actually out there, what most people are self-acclaimed gurus are saying, etc., they wouldn't really be out there, the true ones. So I find a lot of half truths. So it can be such a confusing time, as well as an amazing time to be alive. That's what I say, and things are changing. So I believe in me. I believe we are all gods and goddesses because we are made in the image. I'm using a belief system here of God. That's not like the ego God. It's like the true essence. A lot of people can project their ego when people may say that, but it's amazing when you just sense that you are all part of one. So, we are all one. And, and even with karma, samsara, to me, it's been kind of glorified a bit. To me, we could be tricked. System, is the earth flat? Is it round? Etc. Etc. Are we in a simulation? there's many things. So my thing is, you know what, I get on with my daily things. I believe in myself, believe to where I am at the moment with what I see, what I feel. However, it's just good to get back to connection. When you mention words, the whole English language is everywhere. Try to get everywhere for a reason. Double meanings, morning. There's many things. Hello. So I aspire to say hebano or hi or grand rising or rather than morning. It's just like, well, actually, it's very relevant. In the Buddhist texts, some texts, we take our first breath and we die. So yes, good morning, I would say on that aspect, but time to wake up really, and we can make it a very exciting life.
Thank you for that. So, Lisa, how would you follow up with what Pete just said? And for you, what is your own driving belief system?
I love what Pete shared about the universe and karma. I believe love is the reason why we're here, and that means not only love for others or for the planet. It means love for ourselves, and I believe that at the end of the day, I'm going to be looked at based on how much did I really love. So I think love is the driving force. And if we're not in love, a lot of us are in fear and or the other part of it. And I believe we're, like Pete said, we're all connected. Our beliefs connect us, our thoughts shape us, everything is a part of a grander scale.
And thank you for that, Lisa. So, if you really want to look at the number one driving belief system in your life, the one that you use to channel your life, the one that you use to create your life, listen every morning as soon as you wake up to your first thought. That's your driving belief system. Let's start paying attention to your first thought every morning. There's such a thing called first thought. It's used a lot in the traditions of the Buddha. And I studied different kinds of or facets of the work of the Buddha. I studied at Shambhala Institute, the Tibetan aspect. I also studied as a student with Thich Nhat Hanh, and I studied with him mindfulness. My first walking meditation with him was up on a hill. He was just opening up this new monastery called Deer Park. And I was right beside him. I don't know how it happened, but I remember feeling the stillness. And of course, walking meditations was in silence. It was totally in nature. And we're going uphill. And they were just building the retreat there, so there was no steps or anything. And I remember the silence was so profound, so strong, that I could actually hear him. He wasn't talking, but I could actually hear him from the kind of silence that he was emitting. And that's when I realized that he was talking the language of the trees. And he was no different from the tree, and the tree was no different from him, which meant neither was I. And then it's when I understood that I love trees. So look at the first thought that comes up for you every morning, and you'll find it's a recurring thought. And so he taught us also very extensively about first thought. And I, after that, started to think, what about last thought? And I started, and then, of course, I was studying with Deepak Chopra at the same time. I was studying with them both at the same time. And we were learning the Chopra Center to be we're students, then teachers for Deepak, Dr. Deepak Chopra. And we were talking about the last thought a lot there. I just asked what would be the last thought, I researched it, and boom, there it was. So that was my driving belief system then, that our thoughts really create our reality. So I wanted to know what has the last thought to do with it. And some philosophies believe that in your last thought, the belief system is that your last thought is what recreates your next life or where you go from here. So I started paying attention to my last thought every night before I went to bed, because I don't want my next life to be created with some silly thoughts. I thought I'm going to be very intentional. As I find myself falling off to sleep, I very much hone in my thoughts and I stare them. Because I know that that will be the belief system, that last thought, that will drive my life in the next life, whether it's in this hemisphere or in this dimension or not. So I think our thoughts are really, really strong. They create our belief systems, and our belief systems create our lives. So, for example, someone could say, we all look at the same thing. All three of us right now could be watching the same scene, seeing the same thing. Just like how when I put stuff up on the screen, we all heard, I said the same thing, but you all might have interpreted it differently, because the way you interpret it will be based on your own belief system. So this is why I often say I don't want to be at the scene of an accident or a crime, because I'd be the worst witness for the police and for any investigation that comes afterwards. And they would think I'm a bit crazy, because I would be saying things that they will think I'm nuts, because what I see is so different than what most of us are taught in mainstream education to see, hear, feel, and think, because I have developed that. Because was what I wanted to do with my life, was to make sure that my belief systems were in line and in keeping with the way I wanted to look back on this life, if I have a chance ever to look back on it again, or because I want to make sure that I'm in charge of my life, so that if I'm in charge of my life, then I must be in charge of my own belief systems. And I begin to realize and study more. I remember studying with the work, I didn't know him, I didn't study with him, but studying the work of Thomas More and being shocked at some of the things he said. And because I was so shocked, I decided that I would take them on, because I totally disagreed with him in some things. And that was one of the biggest gifts I ever gave myself, because I no longer disagree with him. And I see exactly what he meant and what it was about it that shocked me. And maybe another day we'll go into that, when we go into more bigger discussions on belief systems. So what I want our audience to do, or co-hosts to do, is think about how your belief systems affect your own day-to-day life. What you eat, what you wear, how you respond to yourself. If you fall, how do you respond? Do you curse yourself for falling, or do you say, blessings galore have now been reaped upon me? So our perception of our own experiences has everything to do with our own belief systems. So I'd like everyone listening to this, watching this, including our co-host, to think about, what belief system would you like to change today? And what belief system would you like to, with what belief system you'd like to replace it to drive your life? Starting with Pete.
Well, so changing them all the time, actually. And in terms of, we have she's now 3-year-old around us, so she's such a conduit. You know, there was a saying, isn't it? If you think you're, let's just say, connected, sorted, go back and live with your parents. But so she's such a conduit, and we know she's a conduit. So any story, any playing up is a reflection of our energy field, you know, and it's a great opportunity. So what would I like to change? That was the question, wasn't it?
So what belief system would you like to use to drive your life?
Sometimes people have asked me different things, especially doing lots of festivals, you know, be in abundance and like the positive, negative thinking. And that I'm going to say, as you have the thing about the positive, negative, I do too, and high vibration and low vibration. It's just like, let's just all get back to the beautiful being, the beautiful young beings we were, without all these words. It doesn't have to be so mystical, and people capitalizing on that. So my thing would be, I would say, just carrying on, just getting back to sustaining a childlike energy doesn't mean I'm a child, but just more the innocence and the pureness and working on that. So yeah, if I stump my foot, occasionally something might slip out, but it is all in terms of seeing it as a positive action and aspire to bring out positive words, especially with our little conduit next to us. So there's not much I would like to change, just to carry on as I am carrying on, and being like the cloud, which is perfect because it is always changing all the time. So that's an ethos I would have. In terms of the question before, it's so beautiful what Lisa was sort of saying in terms that if I have an ethos, what has come to me recently, the sun comes up and the sun goes down. Sun comes up, sun goes down, and it shines upon everyone. So that's how I aspire to be, regardless. So it equates to pure love. That equates to love. Mother nature is pure love, giving, 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 giving. Not to forget, there's a song, Mother and God is God. So many man-made things have tried aspire to block out the sun, which is a reflection and analogy of us, really. So, but we can kind of shine through, keep the sun shining. Doesn't mean so it has no discrimination. It just carries on doing its things. People will come, people will go. It carries on doing its thing. So if everyone found their purpose the best they could and carried on that, and one would hope it's in a very connected, authentic way. So my thing would be carrying on as I am carrying on. The closest I would say is like a cloud, perfect in its perfection, because it's never the same. It's always moving, it's always changing. To me, that's perfection.
Thank you, Pete. Lisa.
That's so beautiful, Pete. I love the sun rises and sets imagery, and of having a little conduit, next to you. A child can is a good mirror for where we are in terms of what we're putting out into the world. And it's funny because I'm in a manifesting course, a master manifesting course, and I realized that I have programming that I need to let go of. It's easy to get programmed. I mean, something happens and then the shortcut is, well, this happened because, right? Our families, our schools, our partner, until we recognize that a lot of it is programming, and we can choose to believe it, or we can choose to observe it and look at it and create a whole new, as the tech priestess would say, upgraded software system. So I'm looking at a couple of things I would love to shift, and that I would love, and one of it is movement. I know, Doree, you're such a mover, and I really love that part of you. I think I have lived in the attic in my brain a long time, and I have a hard time connecting to my physical body, and I've really worked on it. And walking the beach, that's easy for me, but I would like to do more weights. I would love to find joy in movement instead of looking at it from an old lens where I'm trying to be a certain shape, or I've got to be fit, I've got to look like this. That's a more punishing version I've had for myself that I'm releasing. So I wrote this down as a goal today. I'd love to really embrace movement. It's so important. I'm looking at, family members that are getting older, and, those that have moved have a better chance to continue that in life than those that are not so consistent with it.
Thank you for that, Lisa, because interestingly, you said something which I really liked a lot and got my attention. You said you've lived in the attic in your brain for so long. And that is actually, for me, that analogy is just spot on. First time I've heard it, and I really, really like it very much. And thank you for that. And thank you also for acknowledging your body, because we came here on earth to occupy our bodies. Any attempts, any kind of thought on our part to live outside the body will only create issues in our lives that will keep cropping up. And that belief system that comes with it, which is that we're not our bodies, which a lot of people have, unfortunately. This is very important, because that is exactly what we came here on earth to learn. Because Pete said before that nature just gives, gives, gives. I would actually like to add, nature also takes, takes, takes. Nature takes our carbon dioxide. Nature needs us. We're part of nature. It's a giving back and forth all the time. And when we live in our attic, in our heads, as Lisa so really spectacularly stated, what ends up happening is that give and take with nature and the rest of all the beings around us is acknowledged only on a mental level, but not on a physical level. We're meant to be physically robust. Children are meant to run outdoors all day long. And we talked about this last week, Lisa. And just disappear and be safe. That's no longer possible. So we now understand that. But when they come home, they can come home with scratches and bruises and maybe even a little broken toe or so. And our belief system will be they are okay. Not to then move into a panic. Oh my gosh, I've got to take you to the ER. Oh my gosh, what did you do to yourself? I'll never send you out again. Blah, 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 blah. When the child just learned it had a body. And that's how it learns. It's through injuries and through illness and through sickness, which are major gifts for us, that teaches us that we have a golden opportunity that very few souls have been given, which is the opportunity to come to earth in this very deep dimension and to actually explore living in a body. It's an incredible gift. And so I invite everybody here today who's listening to this to actually look at the belief system that might stop you from waking up in the morning and inhabit your body immediately. And when you go to bed at night, instead of thinking about all the aches and pains, thank the ache and the pain, because its job is to keep you in your body and to pull all your thoughts and energies into that space in your body, because it has something to say to you. And just ask it, what would you like to say? What belief system am I blocking by me blocking you out, blocking out the pain with a drug? And everything's a drug, stimulants are drugs, anything. And we're going to go into this much later in other episodes. However, I would like to just look today at the belief system. Why it is that we think pain and injuries are to be avoided at all cost. Pete, let's start with you.
Oh, we could have. I wish that we wish. I'm sure we will have many other topics to talk much more on the whole topic. Lisa mentions about the AI. I kind of get it now. I'm presuming, meaning we are super. I say supercomputers. So it's like reprogramming. If you realize it, we've just forgot. We've stuck on the computer, but that's not us. So, but hey, we've got caught up in the stimulation of addictions of many things, and we can come off the computer and we can defrag. And I see us born when we are born here, taking our first breath. It's very interesting with our astrological chart, that we don't have no firewall. So it's just like all the cookies are coming in, etc., all the nonsense, all the imprinting coming into our hard drive. So then that goes on for years and years and years, and then we believe we are, something that we are totally not. So go back to the question, though. What's the question? The question again.
So actually, I want to go back to what you just said by using the terminology of Lisa and expanding on it. Now, you're now using the language of an entirely new generation. So this is wonderful, because Lisa, thank you for having stated that, because we're talking about belief systems today. And there's a new generation growing up that feels that they're entitled to have a tablet, an iPad, that they're entitled to have new phones every year every time one comes out, and they get it from us. So that belief system we've passed on to them. So instead of blaming the child and saying, oh, you're a spoiled brat, I would never understand when a parent says that to a child. It's like, well, who did the spoiling? You know, who did all that? So what I am looking at here are the belief systems, our own belief systems that drive us. So I asked, what is it about pain, and whether it's through injuries or chronic illness, what belief system drive us to think we have to do something to stop it? And we must remove that at all costs.
Yeah, it's very indoctrinated, isn't it? When we talked about movies, pop, movie series, songs. It's just I see we are like imprinted with that, indoctrinated with that. It's so interesting working with ice baths, saunas, and taking people through that, doing breath work with people, taking them through the belief of pain. And it's so again, I hack in there. Yeah, I still squill, or some things do hurt, but it's just like shift that mindset. And again, if we, especially you younger ones who are brought up on the computer system, see your body as that, and you can change the program. You've been programmed, you've been hoodwinked, we all have. So we can change the program and change the whole belief of pain.
And Pete, my question is, what is the driving belief system that allows us to think that pain must be avoided at all costs, pain and injuries?
What is the driving system? Well, I put it down to, we reinforce that with each other. Again,
yes, but what is the belief system? Why we think we should not be having that pain, and we now need to immediately do something to stop feeling it.
I'm not quite getting what is the belief system of that. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just, I won't even say instinct. It's just a reaction that's been passed. I had to defrag so much. So it's what my mum would do, what I see around. So we copycat. My daughter will copy me if I do start doing them actions. If it's like, oh, she will be doing the same thing. That's the system I see we have all got, you know. So unfortunately we haven't got very connected guardians, and you know, nothing against that. What we've come into is very bombarded with these systems, these belief systems, you know. So maybe I'm just bringing an aspect where I've broken down so many belief systems. So I'm going to say the root of it is the conditioning passed down, movies, what we're seeing through computer games, you know. And so I've jumped many hurdles going through that, and they're just been bliss, and they are opportunities. Even if I'm feel like I'm crippling up in tears, whatever, I know it only gets better. You never lose. I would say you never lose anything of any value. 100%. If I look back in my life, and everything just seeds, blossoms. So, you know, it just comes down to us holding on too much is why things become more harder, more painful. And the rigidity, again, of our minds, again, we can't really blame, but however, you know, we will be wise to research more and look into things more, to and not just repress, sedate, or whether it's addiction of the physical. So it's the balance. Yes, Mother Earth gives, but you know, we plant the seed. It's a symbiotic relationship of balance. Going to sleep and waking up every morning, I cleanse, like my computer. I cleanse before I sleep, cleanse before I wake. There's some Jinshin flows, beautiful flows. So I know of that theory. So My thing is like, wow, I want to go wherever I'm going. Who knows? I want to be pretty clear. If I watch a movie really late, going back past tense, maybe 8-10 years, I could not believe when I do my flows, my whole energy field is everywhere. So we fragment, we don't realize until we get some kind of center or calmness how fragmented we are. If just the thinking, and we talk about thinking. So someone could do harmful words to me, and we can alchemize that, because ultimately nothing can do harm to us.
Exactly. And that's a belief system. You just said it, the belief system. Okay,
Okay,
so
that's one minute.
Lisa, what do you think is the belief system behind why it is that we feel we must immediately take something to stop the pain, and that we reject having injuries and we see it as something degrading?
Because we believe suffering is a problem, right? We believe that we're taught in society, if you suffer, then it's a quote unquote a bad thing. Like rush to get a pill, rush to get it. I just stubbed my toe yesterday, so it's funny that we're talking about this. It's black and blue today, and I know I have friends that would be in emergency room right away with it. And for me, I just looked at it as, why did I stub my toe? I wasn't being present. I look at it as information, which can help me grow. It doesn't mean that if it was, throbbing with pain today, I wouldn't take some measures, but I do believe pain is a teacher. And a lot of times it means we're learning something, and rather than look at it as a problem and try to take a pill for it, it's what am I here to learn here from this experience? Maybe I needed to slow down. Maybe I was not being present when I was decluttering. Maybe I was in resentment mode and I wanted to stop myself. There's millions of reasons. And so I think on many levels, it can be a gift. I have been through some very painful chapters in my life. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to go back to them, but they were gifts. They were gifts to help my soul grow, for sure.
Thank you, Lisa. So this brings me back again to my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, who stated this. We were just about to go to walk silently to a silent luncheon. And he said to us, as you're walking to the dining room, and this was in San Diego, and it was at the University of San Diego, and it had tall palm trees lining the walkway, huge trees. And he said, as you're walking to the dining room, listen to your thoughts. Why? Because I want you to hear your thoughts. And I'm paraphrasing him here. He said, listen to your thoughts. And the rest is not a paraphrase. It's exactly what he said. He said, when you listen to your thoughts, think about, is this what you want the trees to hear? Because as you're thinking, the trees are eavesdropping on your thoughts. Is this what you want them to hear about you? That has had the greatest effect of any and everything I've done in my life. Every time I see a tree, I immediately tune into my thoughts. And I think, is this the thought that I want this tree to hear from me and of me? And how can this actually be blessing the tree if this is the thought that I'm having in my head? Or, wow, so this thought was actually blessing the tree before I even noticed there was a tree. I think it's the most powerful tool I've ever been given, especially when it comes to belief systems. So my belief system, the trees are always eavesdropping on our thoughts, has directed and assisted me in ways that nothing else has done. And that's what I'm talking about. What is the belief system behind why it is we feel we must take pain? Not the reason why, but the belief system. One of the belief systems behind that could simply be what you said before, Lisa, and also because we are taught not to be in our bodies. We believe that having a body is not the greatest gift we've ever been given. So when anything happens that damages it, we ourselves feel damaged. Not that we came here to learn how to be in a body and feel pain, but rather the opposite. So we will continue this again next week, where we're going more into this. It's time for us to leave. And for those of you who've been tuning in, Please let us know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this, your feelings, and what is the driving belief system? To our co-host, think all week. Every time you do something, what is my driving belief system? Why I'm feeling this way, doing this, etc. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. I look so forward to seeing you all. And on behalf of my co-hosts, Lisa.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you, Lisa. Beautiful.
Thank you, Pete.
Very nice.
Everyone, think about your belief systems this week and listen to your first thought every morning.